Okay, so I think I've heard it enough from Twitter, my DMs, asking folks on the Patreon Discord. There's a video going around making a bunch of a stir about Pathfinder 2nd Edition that apparently it's really cool to react to, and apparently a lot of people would like to watch me do. So, roll it out. My name is Tommy. Time for another episode. The first episode. Man, I've fallen in a rut, haven't I? Do we call this Tommy Reacts? Do I go get the reaction sign from somewhere in Pathfinder 2nd and jam it at the bottom of the thumbnail? I probably do. I kind of like that. In regards to the, I guess, zeitgeist of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, if y'all have been around for a while, you know my feelings on Pathfinder 2nd are like as mixed as what happened in the session of Pathfinder 2nd, the night before I went to record a thing. I digress. Y'all aren't here to listen to me ramble. You're here to listen to me ramble after I let another dude ramble. So with no further ado, I know how to do this. I've done video reactions before. I hit this button. Oh, hello. There he is. Very good. On we go, lads.
I think I was wrong. It happens. And as I've gotten a little older and hopefully a little wiser, I realized that cutting your losses is always the better option than to dig in and continue to lie to yourself. But I think I'm ready to admit it now publicly. I don't think I like Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And more importantly, I think I finally understand what it is that I don't like. I have to say something here that I think is important. I am biased. I have been biased. I've always been a little biased towards Paizo because frankly, they've always treated me very, very well, and I mean that. I mean, as an example, I sit here with 250,000 plus subs after years of being a brand advocate for D&D, and Wizards of the Coast could not care less than they do. I mean that. They literally won't even send me a new book. I mean, even with Tasha's, you could see that they sent out books early to dozens of Twitter peeps with a few thousand Twitter followers. Now, before people lose their cool, I'm not saying that I'm some savant because of my subscriber count. I'm saying Wizards clearly is sending out books to influencers, and I ain't on that list, if you get my drift.
Now, that's kind of surprising to me, given that a lot of folks I've talked to in the D&D sphere, admittedly not as much as I used to, but I was given to understand that WotC was very kind to their YouTubers. More you know, I suppose.
Meanwhile, Paizo has personally mailed me tons of books and continues to send me PDFs of their new products. James Sutter, the lead writer for Starfinder, came onto my channel at just a couple thousand subs here before they even changed the Starfinder logo from teal, that original teal that it was, to the orange it is now. I was even part of the Starfinder premiere, which is something that blows my mind. And from Aaron to Jason, Keeley that is, to Owen and James and Dan before they left, and even Bowman and Mona were super friendly to me when I went up and bothered them at Gen Con.
I could definitely relate to that. I very distinctly remember Eric Mona walking up to my now ex-girlfriend and I when we were at Gen Con, handing us a pair of badges and just, welcome to Gen Con, after out of nowhere. Y'all, if you've been with the channel, you know what it is. A very, very, very long time ago, I got an email from Paizo's PR just, hey, we like what you're doing. We want to support you. Will you be at Gen Con? And I have a boatload of stuff that I need to review. Probably will get some of that done over the holidays and as I try to get some other content videos back on the channel. More about that with Patreon goals later. I probably should review, there's a beginner box sitting right over there that I got from Paizo. Right next to it, a Bestiary 2 battle card. Fly for Your Dies in the other room. I should probably get on that, but can relate. Anyway, onward, here we go.
Our staff is frankly made up of awesome people who have always treated me very, very well. And so, why am I telling you guys this? Because I think context matters. I like Paizo. I loved Pathfinder 1st Edition. I really enjoyed the little bit of Starfinder that I actually got to play. I want Paizo to do well. I am, without a doubt, a little biased. But, and this is a big but, I'm done. At least for the moment with Pathfinder. I really thought I was going to do a bunch of coverage on the channel for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I thought, oh great, I can do class videos and builds and this and that and this, and I just didn't. And I didn't fully understand why I was so disinterested in making those videos. And even the videos I did make about Pathfinder, like my kind of popular comparison of Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition and Pathfinder 2e, even in that, I was still fairly critical of the system. I've been running a Patreon campaign through Age of Ashes for Pathfinder 2e for an entire year now, or coming up on a year here in just a few weeks. And I finally understand why. I think I understand why. I don't care for the system. For me, it can all be summed up with 3 words: illusion of choice.
Well, there's an ad. Remember, kids, let your YouTubers' ads play. We very much like it when that happens. But only for 5 seconds, be gone!
The one thing I loved about Pathfinder 2e was its combat. I love the idea of 3 actions, the way that spell casting with multiple actions work. I actually liked the active defending and the way the attack of opportunity were handled and changed from 3.5 in Pathfinder 1st Edition. I loved the idea that I could make 3 shoves in a turn if I wanted, because that's how the action economy worked. And to be honest, at lower levels, the issues that eventually creep into the game aren't there yet.
Nah, see, my issue with Pathfinder 2nd has been, especially in, like, Age of Ashes, which we ran, and, like, though we didn't finish it, there ended up being we decided to switch to a different campaign. I have to assume it would have gone the same way that Extinction Curse did, that is to say, sooner or later we'd TPK. Partially that being because in lower levels, this game can be such a brutal, darn meat grinder. Also, this seems to be getting a long spin up to get to where we're going. Damn it, taking 20.
At lower levels, the combat still feels maybe a little bit frustrating with the multi-attack penalty, which I did mention, but that's about it. Everything else still feels pretty decent, if I'm being honest. But as the players begin to level, patterns emerge. And when I say patterns, I mean cookie cutter patterns, regardless of how the combats begin to take shape, regardless of the variance in enemies and backdrops and surprise ambushes or dockside brawls or dragon totems out in the jungle, the players all do the exact same thing over and over and over and over again. Why? Because that's how they built their characters. And I came up with a great analogy when talking to my brother about it. Pathfinder 2e plays like an MMO with rotations. If anyone watching this has ever played World of Warcraft or Star Wars: The Old Republic, you'll know exactly what I mean by this. If you haven't, what I mean is there is an optimal set of actions that you need to do over and over and over again to perform well.
That feels at least fair, I suppose, to think about. Your, like, I'm gonna screw up the action costs real hard in front of all of you now, but something like power attack, raise a shield, pass, or 2 action spell, raise a shield, command the beastie to do a thing, hunt the prey, shoot the prey. That tracks, and I guess does feel kind of MMO-y with cooldown-y. So here, 5 minutes on, we've okay.
For my swashbuckler player, it's tumble through, panache, sneak attack, confident finisher.
Hey, wait, that's 4.
Over and over and over again. For the ranger, it's hunt prey, hunted shot, throw in a 3rd shot that usually misses. My druid player just this week asked me if they could go back and retcon some of their character abilities because they were getting bored just turning into dinosaurs and dragons to bite and claw things over and over again. I mean, the druid, historically, which is to say since 3rd edition D&D back in 2000-ish, has been one of the most versatile classes in the game. Here we are, 20 years later in Pathfinder 2nd edition. The illusion of choice is so overwhelming in a system built around combat, let's be honest, it is, that it's quite literally boring my player. And before you dismiss what I'm saying here as hyperbole, let me give you some additional context. Back at the end of Book 2 of Age of Ashes, my players TPK'd.
Now that I can believe. 10 out of 10. Yeah, that probably happened. The adventure paths are Rough. Wow, I can spell even though I'm a little tired or rough.
Something I haven't had happen in a game in 22 plus years behind the screen. I've had plenty of character death, but never a complete wipe before. And so this druid player is already bored of his character just between the levels of 9 to 12. That's how little choice they feel they have after initiative has been rolled. That is staggering, guys. That is staggering. We've moved from tier 2 into tier 3 play, and the player's character doesn't even have enough in the tank to keep them interested in a system built around both combat and character customization as its strengths. Why? Because of illusion of choice. Let me give you another example.
There's a big part of me that wants to see that druid sheet, cause like I can follow the logic here if we're talking some kind of martial who has the same attack routine, but like the druid has access to every druid spell, and I feel like if you want to change your routine up, that's just as simple as memorizing a new set of spells. Though I guess like it sounds like said druid is trying to just nom people to death, so that makes a little more sense, I suppose, like if they're trying to play that way. Anyway,
Of an issue that I feel lends to this constant repetition. Let's talk about spells, casting magic, and the action economy. Here's probably the biggest lapse in judgment I've had when initially evaluating Pathfinder 2e. Originally, I loved the concept and mechanics presented. And honestly, even with the critique I'm about to give, I still think it's so close to being spectacular. But ultimately, it only compounds our previous issues of illusion of choice and is a significant factor in giving the players a feeling of being forced into a set of actions each turn. If you don't know, the system is simple on the surface. Every spell has a set number of actions that either can or in many cases must be used to cast them. Typically this is 2 actions. So a level 5 banishment spell takes, you guessed it, 2 actions to cast. Additionally, some spells can be cast with more or less actions, and that will affect how powerful the spell is when it's cast. The best example of this is Magic Missile.
I have the sneaking suspicion this guy's about to drag my favorite spell into it. Magic Missile's dope.
If you spend 1 action, you get 1 dart, 2 actions gives you 2 darts, and 3 gives you 3. Go figure. It's beautifully elegant on the surface. But the issue is, no matter how many actions you use to cast Magic Missile or a similar spell, you still spend the exact same spell slot, which...
Not necessarily. You can heighten it for extra missiles per action spent.
Going back to the point I'm driving home in this video leads to exactly 0 players using the spell without its full set of actions. Anything less than 3 is literally less efficient.
That's like, on the surface, yes, that would make it less efficient, but also the way like spells and Magic Missile and archetypes and things work, I feel like that's pretty unfair, because like, imagine, if you will, the Gish. I won't say Magus because I want to wait until the full Magus comes out before I pass judgment on that thing. Like, strike, 1 action Magic Missile because you don't want the -10. You have a much higher move speed than the thing you're ambushing, and you always just stay out of range, stride, 2 action Magic Missile. I see my Oracle in words are hard. The Dominion War, there it is. Oh man, I'm not editing this one over much, so enjoy that lapse of my brain power. Oftentimes sit in the back in 3 action Magic Missile, but I've seen him just as much have to move and then fire things, or like 2 action Magic Missile then shield. And I myself, when I was playing the Magus playtest in the Slithering, would sometimes strike then 2 action Magic Missile. Is one like strictly better in raw terms of damage than some things? Yes, but not necessarily all of them. And I think Magic Missile is the perfect example of how the 3 action economy functions, and like what I do like about Pathfinder 2. I feel like I'm one player who does not always fire 3 Magic Missiles, therefore it's not true that it's literally 0. Anyway, moving forward.
And Pathfinder 2nd Edition is all about maximizing and efficiency.
Now that one, I will hand him that one. especially if the like some of his experience, which may or may not have been, maybe it's better to say his recent experience has been Age of Ashes, because after running all of these adventure paths, it's been very clear to me you make the really good choices, and even then your party's going to turn the corner, stumble on something that they're nowhere near ready to fight, explode into a million pieces. That said, more content.
The biggest reason, however, might be the one thing I've talked about with a fiery passion of hatred before, feats. I don't know how I got sucked into forgetting just how much I hated what feats did to the game in Pathfinder 1st Edition, but damn! Even with the feat buckets, there is still a sense of build.
Are we calling those feat buckets? I really like that.
Even with feat buckets, which I've praised in the past as being a better option than traditional feat trees, and I do think it is better than Pathfinder 1st Edition's pure feat trees, ultimately still has more holdover than I originally thought.
And there's another ad. Remember, kids, this is how we feed ourselves our food. We get very hungry, and we need to eat, and we need to pick up our children's trash, and we need to clean that, and look at the running. Okay, be gone.
And you can tell. You can absolutely tell that the players are creating synergies between their character options. And I mean, that's not some big secret, nor...
And also, like, you kind of have to. It's said it before, and I'll say it again, and I'll continue to steal it from one of my patrons. It's so important in Pathfinder 2nd Edition to build your optimized party, not like optimize you yourself, but optimize the whole squad, because otherwise you're going to suffer for it. And the like traditional party roles are so much more like enforced as being, this is important, this is how you succeed in 2e. Of course you're going to synergize one another.
Or is it unexpected? I mean, come on. That's the most obvious headline for a newspaper ever. Quote, gamers make good character for game they're playing, end quote.
Can I rename min-maxing for fun and profit? I like that better.
I mean, come on. It's not their fault, and dismissing them as just simply power gamers is a very lazy opinion. But the way that feats...
Yeah, no, good. I felt that one. Thank you, friendo.
Still synergized in Pathfinder 2e all do one thing. They push the players towards a set of actions to utilize those synergies. That's it. And when the players don't do the things that their characters are the best at, they are literally purposefully playing suboptimally. AKA, these feats, even from pools and not direct feat trees, are creating an illusion of choice for my players. Which is why, after a year of Pathfinder 2e and 2 sets of characters, I see them taking the same actions over and over.
Hashtag battle medicine, I suppose. Like, I hear that. God, how many? Oh my. 6 in Age of Ashes, 6 again in Extinction Curse. A lot in Doomsday Dawn, if we count that. I'm going to count that. 6 in the Dominion War, technically 7. There was a lot of like this back and forth kind of thing. And like you see kind of sort of the same feats over and over. And I think a lot of the desire to take those is frankly because we don't have anyone who's just like dedicated to always playing the cleric 5 ever like we used to at the table. And B, like, there's not a lot of great choices, I don't think, especially in the skill feat department. That's why in my 2nd edition videos, I just don't talk about skill feats unless we're literally optimizing around them. And that's one of the things that I didn't much care for in 2nd edition after, like, first glances sort of deal. They just felt, I guess, unnecessary. Just roll the number, and if the number is high, why, yes, you can land on your feet and be just fine.
Regardless of that variance of circumstances of the combats that they've been engaged in. And all this leads me...
I got a little more. I think it's also worth noting that Pathfinder 2nd Edition is what? Like, we didn't have a Gen Con this year, so I forget how counting the year of games works. But it's what, like 2 years and change? Is that right? I think that's right. It's young. It's a very small baby game. And I think a lot of Paizo's design, at least it seems to be right now, is just getting the stuff that they'd made for first out for second in terms of flavor, like in Lost Omens, Gods, and in the Inner Sea Gods book that I'm forgetting the name of. I'm sorry, Paizo, please forgive me. I've forgotten your glorious canonical texts. It's just get everybody out that was out before on paper. And in a couple more years, especially like videos like this and feedback that the community can give them, that's going to change. There's going to be more feats that people want to take. There's going to be more options that help the like less than optimized parties or characters, I guess I should say, have good choices. And even then, I think also a lot of what folks are seeing at the table is just related to, wowie, this is really hard, better grab this thing. Or also, like, 2 sets of characters is not that many sets of characters. If I were to play Bard in 2nd edition, I would make Bard choices, and then I would make very good choices, and then going over to, like, what is opposite of Bard? A Barbarian, I guess, from low Chaw to, or from high Chaw to low Chaw. My feats and my attack routines in combat probably look a lot different, but I have to imagine a lot of the feat buckets, God, that's going to stick now, would look the same, just because at the moment, those are the good choices. It's like battle medicine, halfling luck, adopted by halflings if you're not a halfling. Those are the good choices right now, and a lot of the published content is really hard. So if you're not taking those good choices, there's not a whole heck of a lot of room for failure or for chance.
To one conclusion. I want to quit playing Pathfinder 2e. I don't enjoy it. It doesn't give me that buzz and excitement that I get from playing other games. Now, I want to say something. This was not the video I wanted to write this week. This was not the video that I sat down to write. I wanted to bang out a script for a new Kill Your Party with. I pulled out Tasha's to maybe do some more coverage over there. I had a long conversation, okay, with Dungeon Dudes about doing a collaboration over our disagreement on Healing Word just this past week. And I even pitched an idea to Monty and Kelly about putting some money on the line and turning the collaboration into a bit of a competition for charity. But this is the video that came out. And the only explanation I could think of as to why I literally couldn't get my fingers to type anything else other than this video was because I have such a passion for Pathfinder and even Paizo. And I'm still so disappointed in the direction that 2e took. The system is so crunchy. And the only thing saving us from the tedium of that crunch is good bones for combat. But after giving a year of my life to this game, I feel like even the combat has begun to let me down. And let me get ahead of the terrible comments that are going to be dismissive, saying, well, Cody, Pathfinder is a system all about crunch. You just want to tell stories.
But we all do, and that's the point. Some of us just like to have more options for feats and builds and things. Okay.
Or what did you expect? Paizo makes crunchy games. To which I'll say this. If you think that all Pathfinder 1st edition cared about was the crunch, that tells me you don't know your history in role-playing games. When Wizards left 3.5 behind for 4th edition and caused all that drama with their licensing for their third-party companies, Paizo didn't just make a crunchy 3.5, it did the opposite. It literally did the opposite of that. It simplified the game, even if only a tiny bit. It made the game easier and faster with changes to spot and listen and how initial skills were handled.
I definitely know some people who prefer, like, just flat vanilla 3.5 over Pathfinder, and hearing this and remembering back to this and, like, my pit of stomach reaction to that, is this what 5e players think of me? Oh no, why can't we be a friend?
And when you get feats, while at the same time still saying close enough to 3.5 to allow people to at least continue using their old book collections. And just because I find this fascinating, the snapshot in time when Pathfinder was the #1 selling game in the world, and it had supplanted Dungeons and Dragons at that moment, Pathfinder was the least complicated version of D&D available on the market. It was easier to understand than 4th edition, and while it sold more books than anything else. And it never fell out of that top spot until 5th edition was released in 2014, which then became the easiest version of D&D to play and reclaimed the #1 spot. And I have a lot more to say on this game. I have a lot more I want to say about the structure of the adventure paths and the way that that format clearly affects how Paizo presents their game. I want to talk about how the core combat system with their traits feeds into illusion of choice because their effects are way too small. I want to talk about how
I wish he would say more because I'm not sure what he means there, and like I'm kind of curious. Anyway,
the trait system makes the game basically unplayable if Pathfinder 2e isn't the only game you play every week without like condition cards. I want to talk about.
So I definitely don't have the condition cards. I maybe I'm a little biased on this one because I do all my GMing with a monitor here where Roll20 is and a monitor here where Archives of Nethys is, and I can just like, shit, what is the difference between slowed and dazed? Not much, really. But like, I could just type the thing in and there it is. I don't necessarily need a condition card. And even then, like, you could just grab them out of the core rulebook if somehow, some way you were GMing without like internet access, or just Google it. That's the thing, is like, even if I was at a table and there wasn't a plague and my friends lived in the same city and this would be a great time, I would still, like, I'd have this, right? To which I could, what does slowed mean? It means this many actions are lost, it ticks down, da-da-da-da, so on and so forth. If I was editing this, I'd jam Snape over my face for an arbitrary stupefy joke, but I guess we're going to get away without that one this time. Wow.
The pros and cons of attacks of opportunity now that I've had an entire year under my belt with it, but I'm not going to. At least not in this video. At this point in my script, I was already on page 4, so I'll leave those topics for another day.
As someone who doesn't write scripts in their YouTube videos and just goes off the cuff the entire time, this is a strange feeling looking at someone who does the thing. I mean, they're objectively doing a lot better than Tommy, so maybe we need to break down and do some scripts. Tommy reacts to learning how to do his job better. Yay.
What I will say is this. Pathfinder 2nd Edition is still absolutely a game that I could and would recommend to certain groups as their go-to game system. It has a lot to offer. The Paizo's team is still very passionate about not only their game, but this style of role-playing games, and it shows. Their bestiaries and monster design are excellent. I genuinely still enjoy their Lost Legends line as well. I've got a few of those.
It's Lost Omens, buddy.
Books sitting on my shelf. Their setting is really starting to grow on.
What does Qdoba stand for?
Oh, as someone who worked at a
daydreaming of burrito.
I guess still technically works at a Chipotle, but is trying to get up out of there because the service industry is toxic and stupid. I feel like the enemy has just come across my screen. Be gone, enemy!
On me. If your group gets together for one...
I've never had Qdoba and I'm a little hungry now. Very good.
One shots on occasion and just wants to dungeon crawl through a labyrinth of a dungeon, seriously play this game. There is nothing better on the market in my opinion. If you don't care that your character does the same thing over and over in combat because you're just getting together with friends over a few beers to play and you really want to feel like you're just kicking a monster's ass.
I feel like, okay, so there was a second ago where I said a thing about 5e players, and I'll probably always make those jokes because that's who I am. But I also am in a 5e game right now, and I really enjoy it. And I'm also in a 1e game right now, and I really enjoy it. And in all of the games, I feel like most of the characters I built want to do, unless I'm a full caster, want to do the same thing every turn. That is to say, I hit that thing with a sharp pointed object until it is bloody on the floor. Right? Especially in 5e, I feel like having just ended another campaign playing a little bit of Hexblade, a little bit of Bard, lots of times I was either like stabbing a dude with a sword or Eldritch blasting, bonus action, I'm gonna heal somebody or I'm gonna throw out an inspiration, but it didn't really feel like I was doing anything different. It was just press the button, move if I need to, Mirthful Leaps is fun, and then that's all that I did. Like, I don't think it's a failing of 2nd edition that the combat feels boring and monotonous. Honestly, I think that one's on your GM for not keeping things interesting, keeping you on your toes, so on and so forth.
Well, then guess what? Play this game. If you enjoy a style of gameplay where your game master never talks in first person because you guys all find that super cheesy, play this game. I mean it on that last one, by the way. If you want to look down and say to your game master, I want to use a diplomacy check to make an impression, so I want to engage with the NPC in dialogue for at least 1 minute, and I want to make this check against his will DC to improve his attitude towards us by 1 step on a success or 2 steps on a critical, as listed on page 246 in the core rulebook, then you should play Pathfinder 2.
Okay, so like, as much as I have a bone to pick with the skill feeds in general, as I've said, I think that's a very unfair reading of it because we all do that anyway, and you can just like make the check after doing the role play. I don't get a chance to be a player at the table a lot, as like life has put me in the role of the pro DM, and I think that's great and I love it. But also sometimes when I am the player, I'm showing up just like with no energy whatsoever, and sometimes it's very nice to just be like, hey, cool, he likes us now, diplomacy, because I don't have it in the tank to like role play with the NPC for a minute and da 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 da. And I think that is net easier for the, I suppose, folks coming in and first starting in TTRPGs at large than expecting the GM to be able to roleplay in first person with your character role-playing in first person. A certain amount of time passes, you ask for the diplomacy check or not, or you're the investigator at my Dominion War table, and I don't remember exactly what he did to ingratiate himself with the hierarchy of Kabarat, but he did it, and it was really good, and I didn't even see it coming until they got there. I'm like, oh, wait, you did that on purpose, didn't you? This is why you did that, didn't you? You animal. It was very good, and I very appreciated it. But, like, that's just an unfair reading of the rule. I'm looking at my monitor, and I realize where I paused the video, and I'm being I gotta push on. Oh.
2e. I'm not saying Pathfinder 2e isn't for everyone. Just that, for the time being, at least, it's not for me. I'm not even saying I think Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition has more interesting combat. In fact, if I had to, I would probably call it a draw. The thing is, though, if my choice is between a slight...
So I know I'm a Pathfinder channel. I'll probably be a Pathfinder channel for most of my channel's career, if not the whole kit and caboodle. But why is it always between D&D and Pathfinder in terms of like which is better? I know there are other systems out there. I have seen them. I've watched people play them. I've been invited to some tables. Why do we always compare this apple and this orange? Why not other apples and oranges?
Slightly unsatisfying combat system that feels repetitive, and another slightly unsatisfying combat system that feels repetitive, and those are...
But like that's almost all combat systems are repetitive unless the GM or the module in question, or like I guess if the players want to get super creative and all 5-6 of you show up at the table and you're all like, okay, enchanter, sneaky, second enchanter, Overwatch druid as a bird, and bard, because why not? The bard would be pretty good in that party, though. Just saying. Like, it's always going to be very repetitive. That's not a fault of any system. That's just a fault of, dare I say, C+ GMing.
Are my two choices, then I'm going to pick the one that's less complicated, so at least I have more time to roleplay, which I also enjoy. You know...
So, like, as someone who recently rolled up a character for Cursus Strahd, also, 5th edition, and maybe this is just because I'm new to it, feels just as complicated as compared to, like, Pathfinder 2nd. Maybe not Pathfinder 1st, that's fair. You don't gotta go back and double, triple check what feat interacts with which. I'm a little sleepy. But, I don't know, like, you spend a lot of time trying to figure out what works where and how your multi-classing thing goes and how your warlock spells are stacking and so on and so forth. There's minutia in all of them.
I was really nervous to do this video this week, and I just want to say thank you to all the people who reached out to me on Twitter to convince me to go ahead and pull the trigger on making a critique video, even for a company that I love as much as Paizo.
I feel that one too as well. Like every time I've been like, the method encounter in Age of Ashes is too hard. Everyone's gonna burn to death. Oopsie doo. I get so worried that I'll lose my following or lose support from Paizo or lose support on Patreon or so on and so forth. Because I'm very cognizant of the fact that BDG got big because of the, big, quote unquote. I'm literally sitting here in the shadow of a dude who's up there, and that's the dude I'm in the shadow of, like in the terms of the D&D YouTuber pantheon, I guess, best way to word that one. I got popular enough to hang my hat on this reviewing the Pathfinder playtest, so every single time I have something bad to say about 2nd edition, there's always that in the back of my head, like, is this the Jenga piece that's causing my whole world to explode into a billion pieces? Probably not, because all of y'all are super dope, and I'm starting to actually be able to rely on that. Take that, imposter syndrome. Anyway.
You know, there's a history when you do a really strong critique for companies that sort of, you know, work with you and that you sort of are kind of reliant on, of that not going 100% great. Look at the auto industry. Look at the TTRPG industry. Look at, you know.
I have no context for any of that. I feel like I should be able to comment, but I got nothing.
Linus and Jay's 2 cents on their recent videos. So thank you guys for convincing me to do it. At the end of the day, even though I wish Paizo well, this was a video that I wanted to make. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to pass it over to you guys. What do you guys think? For those of you who have played Pathfinder 2e, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me?
I'm gonna assume this is the end of the video. Somebody shout at me if you've seen this whole thing and like I missed a thing. Be gone, blue shirt man. Oh, that was a bee. There we go. I'm slowly learning how things work. Very good for Tommy. Okay, so like, I get where the man is coming from, having GM'd more TPKs in 2nd edition than any other system combined, and I'm not counting Doomsday Dawn, where we had a guy get stuck in quicksand and almost die, party eaten by a psychoactive sea serpent, using 4 wishes to survive the Star Spawn fight at the end of Book 6, TPKing to the boss, the TPK written in the adventure as well. That's this many. We basically TPK'd in the manor too. We set that damn thing on fire. In hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have said that Fireball ignited the house. That was fun. I don't even care. We enjoyed that one. I get why someone might think you need to take the same feats, and there is an illusion of choice in 2nd edition, and really that's the case in any system where you have more than one choice at large, or anything, right? If there exists 2 different things that want to occupy the same niche or space in anything, logically one of them is going to be better than the other. This is just the way of the universe, right? It's not anybody's fault. With that in mind, I think in the case at least of Pathfinder 2nd edition, it's a little unfair to immediately push out the like, oh, this is bad, I'm quitting forever. Though admittedly, I'm enjoying, like, I'm not gonna lie, after TPKing a bunch in 2e, I'm gonna pick up Fall of Plaguestone in January with some people, and I feel like I'm also picking up nitroglycerin because I just like how many not so glorious deaths my party members have achieved throughout the 2e published stuff. And y'all have seen the video that I put out how to make it easier. Like, they're gonna be dual class, they're gonna start a level ahead. My Extinction Curse players leveled a level ahead of the book as well, because I watched all of this struggle and then they TPK'd. But like, with all of that rambling in mind, it's still a little baby system here. Actually, hold on, I need to get on my Discord. There was a man who said a thing. Okay, dokie, I want to capture, oh, there's Achilles. Did I feed my cat? I fed my cat. Shh, Achilles, we're doing a thing. I don't know if y'all can even hear him. Let's just window capture. This might grab OBS. No, that basically got the right thing. Yeah, very good. So, right there. Well, those are the first Oh, no, that wasn't it. I mean, if you judged 5e after only 1.5 years, pretty much all that had been out at that point were Tyranny of Dragons, Rise of Tiamat, and Storm King's Thunder, none of which were really all that good. Having not played any of those, I don't have a lot of context, but I know back in the day that was like the complaint with 5th edition was there's not a lot of choices. We're going to turn level 3 and we're all assassins or we're all eldritch tricksters with owls, and I sort of understand how to optimize 5e. I don't know. But give it another couple of years, especially with feedback like this, and I do expect a pretty solid turnaround, or at least like other options to be put forward into the space that are good, but do not force you to, like, you pick this or you die. And also, I think a lot of that, again, is just by playing the published stuff, which feels much, much harder. A lot of people in my life have said it felt like some of the encounters in Extinction Curse or in Age of Ashes were written by someone who was having a very, very bad day and was a little too grumpy. Conversely, my homebrew adventure, which is like predicated on the events of Doomsday Dawn, the planet Galarian has been eaten by a great old one and everyone's now a refugee in space if you got lucky to survive. Like, there's literally a system being invaded by a bunch of spooky, scary cultists from beyond space, and the world is falling down around you, and you must make your choices very carefully, and we're doing big survival horror energy. But I, Tommy, know it's so much easier because I made that specifically to be easier and specifically to not try to TPK people. So I guess in hindsight, when I do run Fall of Plaguestone, there will be a little bit of more awareness on my side that I need to turn things down. Probably would have an Extinction Curse if I knew that things hit that much harder than my party. A part of that is on me. But I get why the dude is mad. Like I said, it feels like an unfair overreaction to things. Or at least like a clear sign to, as he's doing, take a step back. But maybe not make a giant video about it in the process, saying that it's, I don't know, it's a good way to get views. That's, here we are reacting to it for a similar reason. I can't disparage him that hard, can I? Oh no. I suppose it feels good also to have watched that and know there's another GM at like my level OGMs who is also, I'm not dissatisfied, but I'll say like frustrated with Pathfinder 2nd edition and feels at least kind of the same way, because I jive with some of the points he's making. I agree. It is good to know I'm not the only one out there, but I think, again, just wait a year, folks will change, we will be heard, the system continues to develop on. That's the glory of bloat, right? Eventually we'll have so many choices that it won't be the illusion of choice, it'll be, here are all these choices, the illusion of free time is gone, you have homework to do, friend. And also, like, maybe we all take this as GMs, again, as a formal heads up of just turn the encounters down a little so your players don't feel they have to respond with the arms race that is the power creep. But that is basically all the time I have for this one and all I really want to say about this. I imagine this video is ticking on long. Thank you guys for watching. I should be back at it next week with videos other than min-maxing for fun and profit. I don't know exactly what I'm doing yet. Probably need to get the Ancestry Anthology caught up, and then we'll go from there. But as always, thank you all so much for your support. I hope y'all enjoy this. If y'all enjoy watching me react to things, let me know, and I guess throw videos at my inbox, and I'm more than happy to do it. If this is what the people want, I got you. Till then, I'll see you next time.